Okay, thank you, Shin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So before the interview, could you please just introduce yourself, especially how did you become a Christian, and just basic things about you. Um,
Okay, my name is Shin Otsuka. I grew up in Japan and it's kind of rare, but I grew up in a Christian family, especially my dad is a pastor,
wow.
but he's a first gen Christian. And before he became a Christian, he co tried to commit suicide 2 times, but he failed. And after that, he was invited to church by his friend, and he became a Christian. But anyhow,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a Christian home, but when I was 13 years old, I was bullied just because I was a Christian. There was no Christian around me, and I was very angry to God, and angry to my friends as well. But one time I heard the preaching that the preacher said, "Do you trust?" Sorry, my kids are crying.
That's fine, no problem. Yeah.
Um, do you trust your friends' words, which can change anytime, or do you trust God's words that never changes? And I decided to follow God's words and God's promise. That was the moment I really I believe in trust Christ. And after that, there are a lot of like um, kind of temptations in teenagers, but God has been kind and I've been protected and I'm still Christ follower and joyfully following Christ now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So, I want to know more about Japanese culture and
Mhm.
religion. So, I've heard that in Japanese culture, the harmony is really valued. And do you know any friends that who hesitate to become Christian because they worry about disrupting family harmony or standing out? And like how do you communicate with them as
Yeah. As
navigate
for like
that community belonging, so.
right. As for like family harmony, against being Christian, I would say generally yes, but more precisely yes and no.
Hmm.
Firstly, to the answer yes, more elderly people, especially the oldest sons, uh, are hesitate to become Christians because of family religion or uh because like they're responsible for their family religion.
Hmm.
If they have certain like religion in his family,
Hmm.
he's the one who will keep the like that family religion. So that's why those people cannot leave their family religion. But to the answer, no,
Hmm.
especially for younger generations, they don't like get disturbed by family harmony much. Rather, they don't want to stand out in a circles such as friends and working places.
Hmm.
But even my wife, who was a first gen Christian, she was afraid of being disowned, cut off from her family when she told her parents that she became a Christian. So still, there's a fear, but especially older people have more
Hmm.
fear, I think. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, um, do I'm not sure because like in China, we view Christianity as a kind of Western religion.
Mhm.
So I don't know, you guys, is there any shared values between Christianity and Japanese culture, or how do you navigate, uh,
Mhm.
this kind of values thing?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about this question this morning, and if it's too long, I know you can stop. But I think there are two big topics here,
Mhm.
and one is like perception of Christianity, and second is sensitivity to religions in
Yeah.
Japan. And for the first question, for the first topic, perception of Christianity. There are two types of people, I think. The first one is they want to experience Western culture.
Mhm.
They welcome Christianity as well. They want to experience Christian culture as well. So they go to like international churches.
Oh,
But the other group is like those who are not relevant to they think Christianity is not relevant to them because it's Western culture. Maybe
okay.
same as China.
Yeah, but how
Yeah.
much percentage for, of this group? Like,
Right. I would say first group is like around 20 to 30%, but 70% of the rest of the percentage, which is 70%, would be the second one. I'm not interested in Christianity because it's Western culture,
okay.
Western religion.
So like most of the Japanese people,
I
they
would say so. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
and and how we share the gospel with them.
Hmm.
Maybe we can use the local relevance of the gospel, such as, for example, they know well about the all three desires through Buddhism. They know like uh Buddhism says like there are 108 all three desires,
Hmm.
and we call it sin or sinful, but they know it, and but they don't want to be called sinners because in Japanese the word sinner or sin in the Bible even translated as the same word as criminal,
Hmm.
but they would say, "Oh, I'm not criminal. I'm
Hmm.
not sinner." So it's kind of translation issue as well.
Hmm.
And but at the same time, many Japanese people are like also spiritual in various ways. Even though some of them claim that they're atheist, they
Hmm.
still believe in like souls. So they are not completely atheist. So in a sense, we can talk about spiritual stuff
Hmm.
easily if we are allowed to talk about religion.
Hmm.
Um, And thirdly, but they have not examined what they say they believe in, such as Shintoism or Buddhism. They don't really understand, more like culture things, because other people do funerals in Buddhism way, so we will do that or those kind of things. But we can explain how the Bible explains logically about how the world works.
Hmm.
I think that's very helpful too.
Yeah. But when you become or any other people they become Christian, do they have to like give up all those traditions like the Buddhist funerals or I don't know. So
Yeah,
they can.
yeah. For example, my relatives are not Christians,
Hmm.
and my father's side, and when one of my relative had passed away, there was a Buddhism funeral, and my family went. All of my family is Christian, um, and it's important to go there to show respect and
Yeah.
there's a ceremony that you will offer incense
Hmm.
for Buddha, but and you have to go to the go and in front of the stage we need to offer the scent
Hmm.
or sense, and but instead of it we prayed quietly, and sometimes we bring flowers, so we don't completely reject to be part of the ceremony, but uh, we commit um, in a Christian way that as much as we can as a Christian.
So
Uh,
your relatives, they are okay with that. You are not, completely, involved in all the ceremony.
It's kind of
Okay.
typical. As long as we sincerely show our respect
Mhm.
to the people, mostly they don't like say anything bad to you,
Mhm.
but we don't know what they're thinking about in their hearts. But
But they know you are Chris. You guys are Christians, so
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And some people say that, oh, you have like strong core values, which is great. So people tend sometimes like respect those kind of firm faith as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can jump to the first one because it's related. So, so how do you, practically use common social or culture touch points like hobbies and festivals to open the door for gospel dialogue in Japan? Like when you talk about the funeral or the different
Mm.
values and how what is the best way to share the gospel with Japanese people?
No, yeah. As for funerals, um, uh, my dad and I sometimes go to like the Buddhism Buddhism priest,
Hmm.
which is officiating. We usually have lunch or dinner after the funerals, so we ask some questions about Buddhism,
Hmm.
and we also share about what we believe. So I think that that's good opportunity.
Hmm.
And for my experience, as my experience, at my home church, some young Christians, including me, made a punk rock band, and we went out and we did a concert in a secular live music place, and we got to know one guy who was interested in my band, and eventually he came to our church and got saved. So I think that music is one of the like great way to share the gospel and make connections. And also we have basketball team church, and maybe 60% of the team members are non-believers, and they sometimes come to church, and yeah. And during break time of the practicing basketball, pastor comes and share small stories about the Bible. So I think that's also a good connection.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I would say inviting friends to my own home is the best way so that we can pray together before meals, or we can have more deeper conversation, I think. Yeah.
Great. I heard that like wedding in Japan is more like Western, right? Or I don't
Can,
know. It's
can you
true.
say that again?
The
Okay.
wedding ceremony
Wedding.
is more
Yeah.
Western, nice,
Uh-huh.
right? So, but funeral is more like Buddhism.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Do you think why like young Japanese people they want to choose the Western, style of the wedding? But
The wedding style.
yeah, so what's the reason behind that?
Mm. Yeah, these days, like the Western wedding in Japan is no longer like Christian, like more like party. So it's kind of hard, but definitely wedding dress looks nicer than um I think Shintoism wedding has like certain costume, and I would say it's also nice, but many women long for wearing white Western dresses because they look really good. So
Mm.
I think those kind of reasons might be a reason as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think sharing the gospel. Now in Japan, there are a lot of fake pastors for the weddings. They are
Mm.
not pastors, but they officiate weddings like pastors. So it's kind of problem, but
Really?
it's
Okay.
another story. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so another question is about public and history issues, uh,
Uh-huh.
especially after the World War II, uh,
Hmm.
because the war between the US and Japan, uh, and I don't know how you guys view Christianity, especially um, they are from the Western world, and also like believers in China and in
Yeah.
South Asia when they talk about how to pronounce this Yasukuni
Yes.
shrine, right? Yeah, and so these are really sensitive
Yeah.
topics. And do you think Japanese Christians how do they take
Mhm.
like public positions, or how do they address this kind of issue? Well, I mean, it's for Christians, in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As for this issue, firstly, like I'm really sorry for people in China and Korea and other countries, Asian countries, because Japan did really bad things to people. So, um, on behalf of Japanese people, I
Mhm.
feel very sorry about that. And personally, I have not discussed about Yasukuni issue with my non-believers in these 32 years of um, uh, of my life. But there are a lot of debates within
Mhm.
Christian communities, and especially like current Japanese prime minister is self-proclaiming Christian, but he went to Yasukuni
Mhm.
and he worshipped it. He prayed it. So it's really big issue. I know it's difficult for as a prime minister to reject, but still it's very real issue.
Mhm.
Um, um, yeah, in terms of like evangelism, since Christian population in Japan is very small, like objection or opposition to Yasukuni issue is not widely known
Mm,
by among non-Christians. So for evangelism, it's not it's not problem for now, but uh, it's a lot of discussion in Christian communities now.
mm, mm,
Uh, but another challenge is that like national anthem, national song
mhm,
is challenging for Christians because the song is like worshiping Japanese emperor.
mm,
And especially nowadays, the world is becoming more nationalism from globalism
mhm.
included. So Japanese people also sensitive if Christians don't sing national anthem, national song. And
Yeah.
one of my friends, as a teacher, didn't sing national anthem at school, and eventually he was fired.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a serious issue as well. Yeah.
Did you would you consider this kind of as kind of persecution from the government, or I don't know, or not really?
Um, I think not from the government, more like people in Japan.
Mhm.
Um, like in that case, parents raise their voices. Oh, this teacher didn't sing national anthem. Is it appropriate? And education organization like debated, and at the end, like he wasn't forced to quit. I don't know, but at the end, he had to quit his job. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So
So, do you think the churches in Japan they host certain political positions to support, or object to the those sensitive topics, or they just don't want to talk about this? So
yeah, I think 10% of churches are doing it, but 90% or 80% of the churches are um quiet about it, sadly. And of course, it can divide the churches, and pastors tend to have kind of authority, so they're hesitating to talk about those kind of things that because they influence church members, but still we need to talk about this kind of this difficult issues wisely, I think, in the churches. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
problematic.
yeah. Yeah. So, the fifth one would be, how do you share your faith with family or close friends, um, especially they are influenced by the ancestor worship or Buddhist or Shinto ceremonies or traditional, cultural practices.
Mhm.
And do, what do you think is the most difficult thing, the most challenging part to share the gospel with them? And yeah, so because as you said before, Christians is really the percentage is like below 3 or 4% of the total population, right?
Uh-huh.
But Japan is it's a modern country, and it's very advanced in many many things. And but Christianity is, seems struggling,
Mm.
for many many years. So
Mhm.
yeah, why is that? What's the reason behind that? So
Mm.
yeah, so how do you what do you think is the most important or efficient way to share the gospel with Japanese people?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a complicated issue
Mhm.
and topic. And if I can figure it out, like I will do well, you know.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of sharing the gospel, I think it's always good to focus on like people in front of me, in front of you, and they have a lot of questions about Christianity or lives or even what they believe. So I would say, of course, we need to prepare for the questions they tend to
Mhm.
us beforehand, but we need to we need to listen well and observe what troubles them about Christianity. And at the end, like we need to do good questions to them.
Mhm.
For example, I interviewed one lady who came to the church, but she said she don't believe there's a God and she doesn't want to be a Christian, but she still comes to the church. And I was curious about her, so um, I I did an interview because I had to do interview in a class, one mission class, and she said she believes in souls
Mhm.
and and she doesn't um she believes in souls, but she doesn't um, believe there's a God or some kind of things. And even though she believes some kind of spiritual being, but she didn't find any possibility for
Mhm.
God. And that's kind of contradiction.
Mhm.
So we can ask about these kind of um, contradiction or um, we can point out that and she or they would think about it because they haven't thought about it. So I think we need to put small stone in their shoes so that they get disturbed and start thinking about it.
Mhm.
And I think the gospel or the Christianity is the like best explanation to explain the how the world works or how human beings work. So I think that's a great timing to share the gospel when they get disturbed by what they believe in. And yeah, I think so. My answer would be like focus on the people in front of you and listen well and ask good questions, and
Mhm.
they will get ready to hear the gospel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's really cool suggestions. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the last question I want to ask is about the churches in Japan, and also it's like do they have like denominations, or how do they do evangelism, or yeah, just a general introduction of the churches in Japan, and w- what are the biggest need for the
mm,
churches there? Do they need like help from the outsider, I don't know, organizations or churches in other countries, or
Right.
yeah. So it's just yeah.
Yeah. Um, Nowadays, churches in Japan is aging so much,
Hmm.
especially like the average age of pastors in Japan is was more than 65 years old 5 years ago. That
Wow.
at the time I heard. So simple calculation, it will be more than 70 now.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to do evangelism, but there are no manpower, enough manpower. So we are praying for workers who can work together uh, in Japan or even outside of Japan. So, yeah, the reason why I came to the States is to share the Japanese situation with others. And if anybody has a passion for Japan, I would like to welcome and encourage them to uh, go and
Hmm.
share the gospel in Japan. That would be appreciated. So, yeah, I think uh, workers, missionaries are very urgent needs. And also now there are a lot of Chinese people visiting Japan and also exchange students as well.
Hmm.
And I used to serve for InterVarsity Christian Fellowship Japan, and I talked with the leader last month, and he said there is more need for international students, so to share the gospel. So uh, uh, yeah, I think for international students in Japan is also kind of in need
Hmm.
to be shared the gospel.
Wow, yeah. So, do you think the churches in Japan they have uh some connections with churches abroad? Like, um, I don't know, like they have this kind of corporations or what do you think? Like, because like in China, because of the um political issue, so the
Mm,
house church in China, they are more like they don't want to talk about, I mean, get in touch with other people outside because that will expose them, they'll be put them into danger.
yeah.
Like in Japan, it's the missionary and Christianity and everything is legal, right? So you can do everything legally in publicly.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure it's that true or not, but it's true, right? You can do
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
yeah publicly. So, do you think the churches they want to, you know, get connections with the churches abroad or um, with other organizations like mission agencies.
Dude, that would be, I think that would be great. As I said, like the Asia pastors are so old, they are
Mhm.
not used to English or like communicating with people from other countries.
Okay.
I think that's a sad thing. And my English is still not good, but one of the reasons I came to the States is that I can connect with other missionaries learning English here. So yeah, somehow I think people in China speak better English than Japanese. Somehow, like we don't speak English well, so I think that is one of the difficulties in mission in Japan.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And
yeah,
I think in the Western like missionaries, when they come to Japan, they have to learn Japanese, right? So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so that's another challenge part. But
That's another challenge. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
do you think
Actually, Japanese people, more Japanese people get saved in the States than in Japan, like because they're open. So that's also one possibility to share the gospel. Yeah.
yeah? So in the end, can you talk about some like the opportunities you have seen in Japan? that we can do ministries there? And what is your vision like for um you said you're gonna go back to Japan, right? So what's your vision for the churches in Japan and ministry in Japan? Do you see
Mhm.
any opportunities and maybe I don't know, maybe seminaries uh in the world or mission agencies around the world they can participate in the ministries in Japan.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't know. It's just yeah.
Yeah, personally, I'm planning to go back to my home church, which is in Chiba Prefecture, which is next to Tokyo. And that's kind of local area, but I believe local churches not in Tokyo but other like um area also needs a good theology.
Mhm,
So um I'd like to go back to my home church, which is in Chiba Prefecture,
mhm,
and share the gospel there. But at the same time, I want to cooperate with missionaries such as OMF or other missionary organizations. So if you can join those kind of missionary organizations,
mhm,
um, there are a lot of opportunity to share the gospel in Japan.
mhm,
And also not only for Japanese, but also for Chinese people who live in Japan. Um, so if you're interested in like, I hope I encourage you to pray about it, and that would be appreciated too. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Do you think it's really hard for like foreigners, like no matter it's Western missionaries or people from China or South Asia, do you think it's difficult for foreigners to share the gospel with Japanese people? Or I mean, like, um, I don't know, maybe, but in China, it's really interesting because
Mhm.
many young people they like Western culture and uh movies, Hollywood, everything. So if it was like American missionary when when he or she share the gospel with the local Chinese people, they really want to know more about the gospel.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if I share the gospel with them,
Mhm.
they don't have that kind of interest. I don't know if it's the same in Japan or the other way around or
Yeah, I think same thing is happening. And there's a Korean missionary. There was a Christian missionary at my home church, and uh, it was a couple, but married couple, and they did um they invited Japanese people to their houses, and non-believers went to their houses
Mhm.
and talked about various things because people get open to other cultures, not only Western culture.
Okay.
And I think uh uh especially if like people tend to think that Christianity is Western religion, but if Korean or Chinese or other Asian people share the gospel, they would listen more because why do you believe Christianity? Even though you are like not Western people.
Oh.
So I think that's very helpful. And especially in China, even though Christians get to persecute it, but they still believe in Christ, and that's very powerful to Japanese as well. So I think that would be a good testimony, great testimony for the
Mhm. Mhm.
Japanese people, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, I know. So yeah, so that's pretty much about the interview. And
Mhm.
yeah, thanks for your time, Shane.